Thanks everyone for bearing with us as we get settled. And once again, June Hansen, Registrar of Voters, is joining us here today to discuss voting, everything that's going on during the pandemic. And we're also celebrating National Voter Registration Day, which happens to be today. And I'd like to start off with some questions about registering to vote, June. Can anyone register to vote?
Anybody can, as long as they're over the age of 18 and they're a U.S. citizen.
Well, that's pretty straightforward. And how can we check on our voter registration status if we're not sure if we're registered with a certain party or what our history is? What's the best way to do that?
The best way probably is to contact our office and we will check. We will usually have your voter registration card very handy behind us in our fireproof file cabinet. If you go to the Secretary of State's website, it's somewhat confusing and I don't know how up to date and accurate it is.
Okay.
Is to call our office and we'll be happy to call you back and let you know what's going on.
That's great. Thank you. And is that just for Clinton residents?
Yes, just for our town. That's all we deal with. Our phone number in our office is 669-6436.
That's great. Thank you, June. And folks from other towns could reach out, I imagine, to their own town hall and ask to speak to the registrar, and they'd have the same information.
Yes.
And so you kind of answered my next question. What's the easiest way to register? It sounds like we reach out to the Registrar of Voters. We reach out via the Secretary of State. What's your recommendation there?
Twofold. The Secretary of State has a website where you can actually do it online. You can register to vote online and then it gets sent to us electronically and it's usually very quick. You can also do it in person. You can come into our office, but we are part-time. If you go into the town clerk's office, she's there more often and we have the registration forms there for her. And when you've got it all filled out, then she just puts it in our mailbox.
That sounds great. Thank you, June. I'll also let folks know that the library is stocked with these voter registration forms. If you or someone that you know needs to register to vote, there's just another option. You can stop by the library during our open hours, pick up one of these forms, and you can take it with you and mail it in if you'd like. There's information for mailing it. You can bring it directly to June or your registrar, or you can just give it back to us. We'll deliver it for you. So that's one more option for registering to vote. So once we're registered, but by the way, is there a deadline to register for the presidential election if we want to make sure that we get in time?
About 4 years ago, the state implemented an election day registration. That means you can register to vote on election day. We have a separate section for that this year will be in the auditorium because of social distancing. We've spread out and we've kind of commandeered most of the town hall. There, you need to bring your identification. You'll fill out one of those forms that you just had there. And if you are registered in another town in Connecticut, we will call that town and see if you've already voted there. And if you have not, then we will register you. We have what's called a Connecticut voter registration system that all 169 towns are attached to in the computer. So say someone is registered in Woodbridge and they want to register in Clinton, we can grab them from Woodbridge and move them to Clinton, register them, then they would then get a ballot and fill it out, put it in an envelope, and it will go, and then it will be delivered down to our machines throughout the course of the day.
Wow, that's phenomenal. So that all that can happen on the day of the election. That's great to know. So now oh yes, we have a question.
Hi, I was just wondering what the deadline is for the mail-in registration or voting online at the Secretary of State's website. Or registering online at the Secretary of State's website.
If you do it through the Secretary of State's website, it is a week before the election. So that would be the Tuesday before. If you do it in person, you can do it up to 8 o'clock on election day.
Good question. Good to know. And the sooner the better, I think, with everything that's going on. But it's great to know that deadline. All right, so now we're registered. We know our status. We have our deadlines. At this point, we're gonna talk a little bit about the differences between the types of voting. You've probably heard about absentee voting, mail-in voting, in-person voting. So are absentee ballots the same as mail-in ballots, June?
No, they are not.
Okay.
Does not have a mail-in ballot. Mail-in ballots are sent to every person over the age of 18 in a household, whether they're registered to vote or not. In Connecticut, an absentee ballot is something that you need to request. So we have that paper trail. What our voters have received within the last week is the application for the absentee ballot. So it is a two-step process. They'll fill out that application. They'll return it to us. We have the Dropbox, which is in front of the town hall to the left of the front door, which is probably your safest bet because we don't want to inundate the mail service. Then when the absentee ballots are available on October 2nd, the ballots will get mailed out to everybody who's requested one with the application.
That's helpful, thank you. And I want to let everyone who's tuning in know also, I will be following up with some notes from this meeting. If you don't get all the dates and information down, I'll send some notes out to remind us. But circling back to the drop boxes, what's the best way to find out where your local drop box is? You mentioned in Clinton, we have one at the town hall.
Correct. Most towns have one. If you want to find out where it is, I would suggest you contact the town clerks. They are responsible for the Dropbox. They're the only ones that have the double set of keys to get in and out of it. Our Dropbox is secured to a 400-pound piece of granite, so I don't believe that anybody short of King Kong is going to be taking it along with the car.
I don't think so, yeah.
The bigger cities have been given the option of having more than one Dropbox for obvious reasons. But again, if you want to find out where your Dropbox is in your town, contact your town clerk.
That sounds like a good plan. And the town clerk can be reached through the town hall, correct?
Correct.
Great. And what else? We're gonna just circle back also to, you mentioned that the best way to submit your ballot application for mail-in voting is to bring it to the Dropbox. If for some reason someone does need to mail that in, that's an option also?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. So there's two ways to submit your ballot application, which is what we've received, hopefully, just this past week.
Correct.
And now one of the questions that was asked is in regards to the absentee ballot. Say you submitted a absentee ballot request form. You got your form on the internet, but then you also received one by the mail. So now you've submitted one form independently. You've also been sent one in the mail. Do you need to send that second one?
You do not, but the one thing with the applications that you have received in the mail, if you can see this here, it has a barcode. That barcode belongs to the person on the application. It does make it a lot easier for the town clerk to process that application. So you can send in the other one if you want to, but you don't have to. It's up to you. One is enough, but I know that there was some question as to what was really happening in the very beginning, and I know a lot of people went online and they downloaded that, and that's perfectly fine as well. But if you have them both sitting in front of you and you don't know which one to mail, send the one with your particular barcode on it.
That's good to know. Thanks, June. And in the event that someone mistakenly sends them both, you'll receive them and you'll be able to validate that that's the same person.
Correct. We're all computerized now.
That's great. All right, and just a little bit more about the mail-in and absentee ballots, and we're going to move on to in-person voting, some questions there. When we fill out the mail-in ballot request form and the ballot itself, I've heard some things about the signature. For example, if you don't sign with your middle initial, but your middle initial is listed on the form, or your signature is not legible, is there a danger that your vote won't be counted?
No, we don't compare signatures in Connecticut. When I registered to vote probably 400 years ago, my signature looks nothing like it does now. And that's a concern for people. And some people take a different middle initial. If they get married, they use their maiden name. No, the important thing is to remember to sign the B envelope that you put your absentee ballot into. That is our paper trail, but we do not compare signatures in Connecticut.
That's good to know. I know that my signature changes.
Oh, it
You know?
does. And it depends on how many cups of coffee you've had. It's
Exactly. I wouldn't want to have to read it. So, but that's good. So we're going to just look very carefully at the form and the envelope to find that line that asks for a signature. And that's what's going to be the really important thing.
Absolutely.
Great.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
What if you you send in your request for an absentee ballot, you have the absentee ballot, and then you have a change of heart, I'm going to go there. Do I bring the absentee ballot with me when I go?
You do not need to do that. You can leave your ballot at home and come and vote in person. As long as it hasn't been mailed and received by the town clerk, you're free to come vote in person. A lot of people have asked that question.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
Welcome.
a great question. So it sounds like if you're uncertain at this point about what your plans are, it's a good idea to go ahead and request that ballot. And you can decide if you want to actually submit the mail-in ballot or vote in person.
Correct.
You'll
Correct.
have that option. So now moving on a little bit, and we can still circle back if you have more questions about the mail-in, but we're going to talk about in-person voting. So in our town of Clinton, do you have an idea, June, for what the setup is going to be like? You mentioned that there will be a separate room to confirm your voter registration. Will the lines be going outside of the building? How will we be handling that?
We are going to abide by the CDC guidelines for COVID, 6 feet social distancing. So any of you that have voted in Clinton know that you come into the green room, into the town hall. There will be 2 lines that will be 6 feet apart. That was scary. 6 feet apart and 6 feet apart horizontal and in front of each other. So there are liable to be some lines outside along the sidewalk. We're hoping for a nice day. There's not a lot we can do about that. We don't have a big enough area to really cover all of the 6 feet. When you come into the green room, you're going to go out into the foyer, which is going to be different. And that's where our tables are going to be set up for check-in. Like I said, election day registration, you will go in one of the other doors, and all of these are going to be very visibly marked. I've also got staff that is going to be there to answer any questions and help guide everyone. This is all new to all of us. So election day registration will be in the auditorium, as will the absentee ballot people. That staff will be up on the stage doing the absentee ballots. So we've got everybody spaced out, and we have, I just bought a UV wand that's going to be able to sanitize each of the voting booths. It's only going to take me 6 seconds to do. We have hand sanitizer, gloves, masks, face shields. We've had barriers. Our Department of Public Works has built barriers on all the tables. So there'll be a plexiglass barrier between the workers and the voters. We're not even going to touch your license when you come in. You're going to lay it down for us to look at, and you're going to be in charge of that. We have one-time use golf pencils that you will use only on yourself, and everybody can keep those pencils as a souvenir. We did really well for the primary. People were very happy with the way that it was set up. So I think this is evolving as we're going along. And I think we've got it pretty much under control.
It really sounds like you've got everything thought out. It sounds like a great plan. So I imagine in other towns, it might look a little different than what you described, but everyone's going to be following that CDC guideline for 6-foot distancing and sanitary procedures.
Correct. Correct.
Great. If we do want to vote in person, are there any things that we need to bring with us that day?
First of all, we would appreciate if everybody wears a mask, and I think that everybody is very good about doing that. It's not so much for yourself, but it's for other people that might be immunocompromised. Thing you need to bring is your driver's license or some form of ID. It is mandatory in Connecticut. I know there are other states that it's not, but a form of ID is mandatory. If you don't have a driver's license, you can bring a bill, electric bill, tax bill, anything like that. That would be good. That's all you really need to bring.
That's great. And if I just moved to town, is there anything supplemental I should plan to bring, or anything I need to do to make sure? Would I just confirm my registration with the folks handling that?
Well, when you register to vote, you usually put down your driver's license or the last 4 digits of your Social Security. And our computer system is hooked up to Social Security and DMV. So when we register you, if those are valid numbers, it will tell us that it's okay. If not, then there'll be an asterisk next to your name, and it will say that you need to prove some form of ID. And like you said, current tax bill or electric bill or any form of identification. Yes, that would be good.
Great. I'm putting you on the spot here. That's good. That's great information. Thank you, Jim. Okay, so we have registered. We have either submitted our ballot or we're at the polling location. We're ready to vote. Say we're in line, and it's nearing the end of the voting period. If I'm still in line when voting comes to a close, does that mean I can't vote?
Absolutely not. If you're in line, if you're in the building at 8 o'clock when the polls close, you get to vote. A few years ago, well, I'm going to date myself now. I would think it might have been in the 2000, I don't remember with the exact year, but we had 10 charter questions on the ballot. At 6 o'clock in the morning was out the green room into the parking lot around to the east side of the town hall out to the street. And it was like that all day. And the problem was the 10 charter questions were individual and people were taking time answering that. No matter where the end of that was, which at 8 o'clock when I went out to stand at the end of that line, it was in the middle of the parking lot.
Wow.
They got to vote. So if you're in the building, if you're in line, you will vote.
That's great to know. Thank you. So you already mentioned that the polling hours, even though if you're in line, you can stay there and you can vote. They do close at 8. What are the hours? What time does voting start?
Voting starts at 6 a.m.
Great.
And it goes through 8 p.m.
Okay. And remind us the day one more time. We want to have that on our calendars.
3rd.
I'm sorry, I cut out. Can you repeat one time?
Tuesday, November 3rd.
Tuesday, November 3rd. We'll put that on our calendars. 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Let's see. I've got just a few more. Oh, yes.
Another question. I've been voting in Clinton for years, and we always see the same friendly faces of the poll workers. And I was wondering how difficult it is for them this year, or how difficult it has been to get poll workers to work the polls on election day.
I have a lot of poll workers are older, and some of them have not wanted to work. A lot of them have wanted to work, but you are going to see a lot of new faces, which is wonderful. But you're also going to see a lot of familiar faces when you walk in there. I mean, Dick Buskey won't be there. He doesn't want to come and pass out the ballots. But you're going to see a lot of familiar faces, plus you're going to see some new ones. Most of the new ones at this point are going to be doing the absentee ballots, and they're going to do the election day registration. Dolly Mazzetti is going to be doing the election day registration. Wendy and I are going to be there. Like I said, Roger Putham's not going to be there. He doesn't want to work. Dick Buskey doesn't want to work. And you know, that's okay, that's fine. I'd rather them be comfortable enough to say they didn't want to work. So we have outreached, but I've got, I think, everybody hired for November 3rd as of this moment.
Okay, good, thank you.
Welcome.
Wonderful. Good question. Thanks. And that leads me into one of our next questions also. If someone is interested in volunteering or employment opportunities in their town or in the state, what's the best way for them to learn about that?
Employment opportunities in general, I don't know really what to tell you on that in regards to that, but we've had a lot of people that have reached out to us and sent us emails saying that they're available to work. And basically you need their name, their address, their date of birth, and a contact phone number. And that can be sent to our our email address at the registrar's office.
So any town hall that you could reach out to the registrar and ask if they've got an opportunity available.
Sure, yep, absolutely.
And so just a couple more questions about some things that we may have heard in the news. I've heard a lot about voter fraud. Is that a concern of yours?
It's always a concern. The one nice thing is we're a small town and we have a very good system of checks and balances. We work very well with our town clerk. There's a lot of communication there. We do everything in our power to make sure that there's no voter fraud. I don't do well with people that are not honest. And I think people need to understand that if it comes to our attention that there's been voter fraud, I will not hesitate one moment to turn them over to the elections division up at the Secretary of State's office and report that, and then they will investigate that. There's the possibility of 5 years in prison and a $5,000 fine. So you really need to think carefully before you decide you want to do that.
Definitely. Yeah, it's good to know that there's a system in place for that. Penalties. And is that something that you encounter frequently?
I only encountered it once. I would say it was probably about 8 years ago. We had a woman come in and she voted, and kudos to my ballot distributor, one of them. The lady came back around again in about 2 hours. And my ballot distributor said to me, that lady already voted. And she checked in. And sometimes, you know, we relieve the help at the table so they can go to the bathroom, so they can get something to eat. And you may not remember that particular person. And she had changed her sweater. And she came in and I went over to her and I said, excuse me, I said, you've already voted. And she looked at me and she said, well, I'm voting for my mother. And I said, well, where's your mother? Well, she's out in the car. And I said, oh, lovely. I says, we can do curbside voting and I'll take a ballot out to her. And then all of a sudden she changed her mind and she was not in the car, clearly.
Oh.
And I did report her to the police department and there was a very, very quick response.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that happen, but it sounds like everything went as according to plan. It was, you were notified and you passed that information on to the authorities. Yes, a question.
Do we have any statistics on the incidence of voter fraud in the state of Connecticut?
I do not.
Mary, I can send that information out. I will include it with the notes that I send in the follow-up to this program. That's a good question. Thank you. And June, you just mentioned something else that's interesting. There is an option for voting for folks that may not be able to leave their vehicle.
Yes. Yep. It's called curbside voting. And obviously they haven't driven themselves if they, you know, can't get out of the car. And they will have whoever has driven come in and inform us that they can't come in. And we will take their license. We will check them in. We will get a ballot. We will put it in a folder and we will take it out to them, let them fill it out in the vehicle, and then we will take it back and make sure that it gets into the ballot box.
That's great. It's good to know that there are different accessibility options for everyone.
And we always have a handicapped voting booth right inside the door you enter. So if people find it difficult to walk through the green room, which can be quite large, they can come around there and sit, and then we go through a similar process.
Perfect. Very accommodating. And we had someone asked, are there any events planned for the schools? I know that on a typical year, there's some outreach that's done with the high schools. Is there any way that we can connect with our students to help them get registered and be informed?
The kids are really pretty proficient on the computer, and I think they find it easy to do it on the Secretary of State's office. The one thing I have found this time of year is that a lot of the children up at the high school don't turn 18 until spring. So they can't vote in November. We've had a lot of the young kids at the encouragement of their parents to get registered, which is great, awesome. I love when I see the young kids are so passionate about this because they're our future. So to know what, we have not set anything up for that up there. I didn't even know where I was going to start with that, to be quite honest with you.
Totally understandable, but it sounds like a great option. If there are young people in your life, is to pass this information on to them, maybe forward that Secretary of State link to them through a text or an email, and it's a quick and easy process.
Yes.
I think that just about covers the questions that I had for today.
One on the list, I don't want to interrupt, but I want to kind of talk about this a little bit. Somebody asked, does my one vote count? Oh, it does. In 2015, our municipal election here in town. Are you here? Okay. Continue.
Yeah, just a little echo. Actually, if you don't mind, June, starting one more time, we'd love to all hear what you have to say.
Okay. You ready?
Let's go. Yeah, let's try it out.
Somebody asked, does my one vote? Yes, it does. In 2015, we had a municipal election for first selectman. Was between Willie Fritz and Bruce Farmer. And it was a tie vote. The first in the history of the state of Connecticut, a tie vote for first selectman. So we do automatically, we call it what's called a recanvass, and a recount basically, and we did that on the Saturday. Now there's usually a 0.5% variation with the machines that we have. So what happened was Willie got one more vote, Bruce got 2 more votes. So Bruce won by 1 vote. So if you're ever wondering if your 1 vote counts, oh yes, it does.
Wow, that's an amazing story. A little piece of local history and a perfect example for why, in fact, each and every individual vote does count in this election.
Yes.
Whether it's an absentee ballot, a mail-in ballot, or a vote in person, we want to make sure that you have your vote.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that, sharing that, and all of these stories and valuable information with us, June. Does anyone have questions at this point? Things that you're not sure about or things you may have heard about? Yes, Carrie.
Michelle.
You're muted.
No.
Carrie, did you have a question?
I don't have a question. I just want to say that in this year, which is a truly difficult year for this situation, for voting, for gossip, for misinformation, I can't imagine a town that has 2 registrars I'd rather be with. What you're doing now, Wendy, Wendy is the other registrar, but what you're doing now, June, is it's evidence of what I'm saying. We're very lucky to have you, and I have full confidence in what you're going to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That means a lot. It really does.
Yeah, they make a great team.
Yes, we do.
Hi.
Yes, Michelle?
I was just going to suggest, and you probably already are going to do this, that the taped version of this be repeated and put at the website of the library, because it's information or things I didn't know. And so it's been very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. I do hope to be able to share the video as long as our technical boundaries allow us. If for any reason you do not want to be included in the recording, please send me an email today. We will find a workaround. And if for whatever reason we are unable to share the video, I will be sharing comprehensive notes from the program, and we'll share that widely.
All right. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Mary, do you have a question?
Are you going to post it on your Facebook account?
Yes, and so we, in whatever format, we'll share the information to our library's Facebook. It will eventually go out in an email newsletter, and I will also follow up with the folks who have registered for this program, who not everyone was able to join us for the live meeting today, to make sure that information goes out to as many people as possible. And we have some great partners in town. Celebrate Clinton has been sharing some wonderful information. Thank you, Carrie. And the PTA has been sharing some wonderful information that really applies to everyone. So we have some great networking going on in town to make sure that information is available.
Will you be contacting the high school to share this video?
I do think that the PTA has a good reach to be able to share that information. So yes, we will share that with them, and they'll get it out to folks that way. And so just circling back, if you have any more questions, you can reach out to me anytime here at the library by email. Or you can reach June at the town hall, give them a call. We'll speak to you or call you back. We do have voter registration forms available here at the library. And yeah, never hesitate. There are no bad questions. But we'll all get through this together and find something that works for us all. So I want to thank you for joining us for this discussion today, and thank you, June, so much for all the work you're doing for our town and your assistance today.
Well, thank you very much. The most important thing is that our voters are informed and they understand and they're not confused and they're not scared. We're all about the voters, no matter what it takes.
That's it.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was so nice to see you all today. Be well, and like I said, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you.